Now, that's pretty much all I can say or all I can think of for general weapons. Does anybody have any questions about certain weapon sets or any suggestions?
May I add something about the Great Sword's whirlwind attack?
Go for it.
It counts as a dodge. So if say the entire Zerg's behind you, and they're throwing all of their projectiles at you, use your 3, you'll dodge all of them. And you'll get out of combat, and you'll just run faster than them.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. The 3 is indeed a dot. So it is absolutely invaluable for getting away from a fight. Sometimes you'll find, if you hit your 5, you'll get immobilized again and not go anywhere. You won't have as much of an issue with that when it comes to the... Another thing I wanted to add about the Sword Warhorn with quick breathing. A couple of months ago, they changed this from... I think it used to cure either the most recent condition or the leftmost condition. And now, I believe, for some reason, it will cure the condition with the shortest duration. There's been a lot of complaints about it on the forum, and I agree with them. That is absolutely useless. Because if you have a 60-second poison that just got applied, or you have a 5-second cripple, if you use your Warhorn ability, you are going to cure that cripple. It is miserable, honestly. So try and keep that in mind. Oftentimes, especially with poison, since poison is something that I have a hard time dealing with most of my build, and you will probably find that it's a very frustrating thing for warriors to deal with too. Try and make sure that you know what condition is going to get cured when you use your very limited condition removal. Otherwise, you may find yourself getting very frustrated when you're trying to cure something and it doesn't get cured. Instead, something that wasn't really bothering you gets cured.
Time to do some real damage.
Anything else about general weapons? Anybody? Questions, comments? Alright. I'm not going to go into any builds really tonight. I'll save that for another day, but I just want to leave you with some closing statements. You may find this very discouraging, and I don't want to get too many people down. On a bad night, oftentimes you will hear me complain about how terrible warriors are. And if you look at statistics, you will see that warriors are kind of on the low tier when it comes to being effective in PvP. However, you are still an absolutely invaluable asset to your team. Now, I promise for the next training session I'm going to find a synonym for invaluable, because I think I've used that word about every other sentence. But I do want to stress that
from the server.
Your group synergy is spectacular. Your damage can be unmatched on a good day. The amount of finishers that you can pull off, and the amount of group utility and buffs you can bring. We certainly are an unsung hero of the game. But you need to make sure that whatever build you're running and whatever you're doing, you want to have a very particular goal in mind. Because there really is no jack-of-all-trades build for a warrior. You'll probably find yourself respeccing often. I personally carry 4 armor sets and 1 of every weapon.
Feels disconnected from the server.
I will find myself respecking maybe 5 or 10 times a night on a World v World night, depending on what we need. You want to be flexible. You want to know your class, you want to know other people's class. Honestly, you want to be a career warrior.
Replenishing.
And one last thing. It is very difficult to balance damage output and survivability. Not as much if you have high-level consumables. Oftentimes you can run a high damage output build with pies and have a nice amount of survivability. But note that it can be very difficult to have a large amount of damage output and a large amount of survivability at the same time. I typically try and focus on one or the other. Say, if I'm running a banner regen support build, I will focus on being defensive. If I'm running a hammer build, I will focus on being defensive with a lot of CC. If I'm running a rifle build, I will go straight damage output and just stay in the back lines. If you try and do a perfect balance, you'll probably find yourself gimped in one category or the other. So try and keep that in mind. Again, work with your friends. You'll find yourself most useful when you're working with your other players. And do not be a hero. For the love of God, do not be a hero. My video, 15 minutes of Deany Kong dying in World vs. World, was a perfect example of me trying to take on the world by myself. And literally, all that footage was from about 3 days of World vs. World. And I did not have a fight where I survived in all of that footage. Well, I had 2, but 2 out of about 40 fights is not something to brag about. I did not communicate with anybody. I ran in head first, trying to swing my hammer around. It did not work at all. But if you look at the first video from
and the Kongs on the server.
Wednesday, I believe, the night that we took Stone Mist, that I uploaded the 2 videos. If you notice, I run in when we're pushing. I make some hay. As soon as things start to go bad, I run up. And you'll see me running, you'll see me strafing back and forth behind our Zerg at like 100 HP until I get out of combat. As soon as I'm back to full, I dive right back in and do it. I'm using our position, I'm using our group to my advantage, and I am doing significantly more damage output and significantly more control than I was in the first video where I tried to do it all by myself. If you aren't sure what builds to run, I think we have more warrior builds than any other class on our forums right now. Take a look at those, play with them, see what you like. They're all pretty good, and it can help you get a feel for things.
We'll be posting more of the World v. World relevant builds over the next week, and I don't know if I already mentioned this about the advanced training, but it's essentially going to be putting everything that Deany talked about, that I talked about, into practice. We'll probably at some point organize a synergized warrior guardian advanced training. And then I guess the third thing to consider would be like a theory crafting session to talk about different builds that are relevant, I guess, in World v. World just in general. You know, and just kind of outline the big ones, allow you guys to offer your builds and talk about them in a really, you know, light atmosphere.
Yep.
Oh.
Oh, and if you're an up-and-coming warrior and you haven't got any exotic sets yet and wondering what to... I highly recommend either Knights or Soldiers to start. Knights is Power, Precision, Vitality, and Soldiers is Power, Toughness, Vitality. If you're gonna run a shout healing build, or... Sorry, what was that, Wisdom?
Night Power, Precision, Toughness.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, in PvP, in SPvP, it is Vitality. In PvE and in World vs. World, it will be Toughness instead of Vitality.
Thank you. But
Weird.
definitely power and some defensive abilities are probably your best, like, bread and butter. Arm. Next up would probably be your Berserkers. And the last one would definitely be your precision, toughness, healing power, if you're going to do a banner support or a healing build.
Now, the good thing about something I just wanted to outline about banner builds. On each of your banners, and I talked about this earlier a little bit when we were doing the Guardian training, because I thought it was really relevant. On each of your banners, the number 5 skill is a blast finisher with a 10-second cooldown. I don't know if there is a trait for decreased cooldowns on banner abilities. Is there?
There's a decreased cooldown on banners, but not the abilities themselves.
Okay.
But on a note, that 5 ability is separate for each banner. So if you have 5 banners down, you have 5 blast finishers.
It's actually not. If you're using it on the same person, it's
There's no heal skill. It would be 4, max of 4. And also remember that if you're running a banner build, you're gonna be applying regen to everybody. You're gonna be applying bonuses to everybody. The banner regen, the build is just very underappreciated.
It really is.
Underappreciated.
It's my second favorite ability.
Right now, I'm just picking might, swiftness, fury, and regen. Like, that's pretty ridiculous in my opinion. And you've got blast finishers to apply, additional might, additional retaliation, and whatever. So, like I said, this is be one of the staple builds in a Guardian Warrior synergized composition, and we'll talk more about that in another session.
Goes for all the classes. If you don't have your stow weapon hot, do it. I don't know if it's bound by default.
No, it's not. I had to bound mine.
Your what weapon?
To stow your weapon, to put it away.
Yeah, you have to manually do it, I believe.
Yeah, it's at the very bottom of the options, the control option. It's the third from the bottom, stow/draw weapon.
Why is that such a big deal?
Whatever you're doing, it will stop it.
Ah.
This will cancel casts. This will, I believe, cancel like revives and stuff like that.
Wow, I actually did not know that myself. Usually when I'm trying to cancel out something, I'll dodge roll, which of course is a waste, so thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, so that's, what was the word they suggested? Precious. That is precious.
Precious.